When you think about strong villainous characters, Dio and Sukuna come to mind. These characters are highly respectable figures within their respective universes and are held in a high regard as a pinnacle or symbol of power. Both characters' reputation for strength defy them as strong villains. So, what would happen if we put them against each other? Dio vs Sukuna is a matchup I've been wanting to explore, but I've always felt like it might be a one-sided battle due to the massive strength gap between these characters. However, now that Jujutsu Kaisen is starting to exhibit faster than light feats, I thought I might give this showdown a shot. This video will be a collaboration with Crafty and I recommend checking out his content in the description. It will handle the Jujutsu Kaisen side of the video and start off this video, so without further ado.
Ryomen Sukuna's scaling is very easy to go over, as he just blatantly scales above the likes of Jojo, in which his attacks can not only destroy a portion of a city but cause earthquakes, with said feat being calced upwards of city level. Something to note though that Jojo himself doesn't scale to his maximum technique, as it was confirmed it would do some damage to Sukuna if it hit him, something that Jojo couldn't do normally. But for what Jojo does scale to is his own domain expansion, in which he creates an entire mountain out of iron. With the amount of mass and heat the said creations emitting, this feat's been calced upwards of practically island level in terms of the power, as this can be consistent, as for an example the higher interpretations of Jojo's maximum meteor, or the fact that Jojo is leagues above the likes of Dagon, who can construct an entire tropical island in his domain. Something to note is that one's own domain is the construction of their own cursed energy, meaning they scale to their own domains innately. With Sukuna not only being able to be physically stronger than him, but also Jojo self-admitting that he would lose instantly in a domain battle, Sukuna would scale to these island levels of power very easily. And this was just with a mere 15 fingers. With his full 20 fingers within his new Ryomen perfect form, as some people call it, he'd be significantly stronger. However, Sukuna has a way higher scale. Just 15 fingers Sukuna would scale to Kenjaku, as he was able to save him from Gojo, as well as he self-admitted that he would have died if not for Sukuna's interjection. This is important because in chapter 208, the special grade sorcerer known as Yuki created a black hole, and Kenjaku takes it. Now, regardless of the specifics of a black hole or in the purpose of its scaling implications, it was blatantly stated it would have destroyed the world. Now, people try to say that he doesn't scale to it due to him using his anti-gravity curse technique, but you have to realize that one, he produced enough curse energy to counteract it, as well as being stated to use his body as the catalyst. But even if you disagree with that line of scaling, he still scales above Tengen, who was just blatantly stated to suppress the effect of the black hole so it didn't destroy their world. And what makes this even more consistent is that Sukuna himself has been stated to be able to destroy the world on the backside of every Jujutsu Kaisen volume. And with the more recent events that happen in the manga, it makes this point very blatant and or consistent. So whatever way you look at it, Sukuna is consistently reaching those planetary scaling, making him very consistently planet level. Now, something I should quickly go over is the Mach 3 speed feat. For one, yes, I do agree that the low to mid tiers of the verse do cap below this, as I've explained in other videos. But again, as I explained, that the high to god tiers of the verse would drastically scale above this. As yes, a pre-true self Maki couldn't really react to this Mach 3 Neoa, but after she achieved her true self, she was essentially running circles around him. And this would be the Maki that is equal to Toji, who was reaching those special grade tiers. And speaking of those tiers, all of Jujutsu High's strongest students are considered equal to an extent by Kenjaku and even by Gojo himself. And this would include Maki, Yuta, and Hikari. This is important because they would all relatively scale to Hikari's feat of dodging Kashima's lightning bolts point blankly. And for those who say this feat doesn't make sense or isn't consistent, you have to remember that he was able to process the lightning when it was already inside his head and get it out before it blow his head up, showing he does have the capability to react and why he was able to dodge lightning. And with this feat being calced upwards of Mach 4760, meaning Maki would scale relative to this feat, and 50 Finger would also scale to this at just 10% of his curse technique as he was able to fight her. Now, I preface the fact that he was only able to do 10% because in JJK, your curse technique is 80% of a sorcerer's strength, meaning a real 15 Finger Sukuna will be 3.34 times greater than this, or be Mach 15,898 or sub-relativistic speeds. Though fortunately, we actually have a higher speed scale for a 20 Finger Sukuna, as him, while weakened and crippled essentially from his fight with Gojo, was able to point blankly react and dodge Kashima's blasts. This is important because his blasts were stated to be electromagnetic waves. Now yes, electromagnetic waves only travel at the speed of light in empty vacuums like space, but the speed difference between electromagnetic waves and air or atmosphere isn't that different. In fact, it's a less than a 1% difference in speed. With Sukuna's speed of dodging his feet, it actually comes out to around 2.57 times the speed of light. And mind you, this was him essentially when he was crippled with no curse energy. But just to be conservative, let's say this was the peak of what that Sukuna could do. Now Kashima was able to fight and contend with that Sukuna before he used his curse technique, and when he did use his curse technique, he would be 5 times greater, as already established with the logic that a curse technique is 80% of a sorcerer's strength or 5 times greater, making that Kashima again 5 times faster or stronger, making him 12.85 times the speed of light. And with Sukuna's perfect form, if we just assume he's 2 times stronger than Kashima, which isn't that unbelievable, especially with the consistency that can be considered the one-shot factor within the verse, Perfection Sukuna would be 25.7 times the speed of light, or FTL plus speeds. So Sukuna's abilities are few but potent. Some of his regular ones include his regeneration via the reverse curse technique. He can regenerate lost limbs and even his heart, and speaking of his heart, he doesn't even need one to live, he's just that guy. The reverse curse technique also works on healing the soul, and mind you, his healing is so good that he subconsciously heals. And speaking of the soul, his Sukuna's dismantle cleave not only adapts to the person and them in one strike, but is also shown to attack the soul itself, as it was able to affect Mahito, as he can only be hurt by attacking the soul directly. And its newest iteration or application by Sukuna is dismantle is shown to sever the world. With using Maharaga as a model, he learned how to not only cut space, existence, and the world, but has noted how he was able to even cut through Gojo's infinity. So what does it mean to cut through Gojo's infinity? Gojo's infinity allows him to converge an infinite series of distance between him and everything. Essentially, it's explained as he can exaggerate every decimal or every distance between him and his opponent, so they would never reach him. A concept similar to Zeno's paradox. So Sukuna's new dismantle has a potential or attack speed of nigh, if not infinite speed. And of course it has spatial manipulation, as it just cuts space or existence directly. He also has his domain expansion that not only spams these dismantles, but are guaranteed hit as long as you're within this 200-meter radius. Some of his minor abilities is resistance to all toxins and poisons. Fear manipulation, he not only affects the soul or based on the soul, he can also affect people who are stronger than him. As well as soul resistances, as Mahito couldn't transfigure his soul, his fireball technique, and with his new curse tool he has lightning manipulation. And with his extra appendages, he can not only use multiple techniques at once, but also increase the speed or strength by using hand signs or chants to make him go, again, faster or stronger. And power nullification with domain amplification.
Dio has a lot of incredible abilities in his arsenal. One that should definitely be noticeable though is his ability to regenerate. His regenerative ability started off small, being able to heal himself faster than the skin burns, but later skyrocketed to incredible feats. One of which is him being able to fully reattach his limbs, including himself after being bisected by Jonathan while empowered by Hamon. This is particularly impressive considering that Hamon is in its nature acts like a laser-like kryptonite to Dio's cell upon impact. Despite this, Dio is able to both heal himself and show visually no fatigue after doing so. These regenerative abilities are also comparable to Strietzo, as it's stated that these somewhat have the same abilities. Strietzo was able to completely reattach his body after being blown to pieces, which is also another incredible feat for Dio since he can also do so. Dio also has the ability to freeze people upon impact, on freezing the opponent's blood vessels and completely vaporize the body fluids off the opponent, as shown with Zeppeli. This, however, becomes stronger later on and shown when Tom Petty is able to make the assertion that Daier's entire body was frozen upon impact. Dio also has the ability to completely freeze his opponents in fear despite never having met them prior. Kakyoin states that after meeting him the first time, he was so terrified that he froze in fear and was so sick he almost threw up. Avdol, considered one of the most strong-willed characters in Jojo, forced himself to swan dive off a building just to escape Dios' aura. Dios' presence is so evil, which by the way has nothing to do with power, to the point where they start to sweat before they even recognize it was Dios' aura, just because of the pure evil. Dio has a lot of other abilities, but I don't really want to talk about them so long, so I'm just going to continue his power scaling. For speed and strength, I'm just going to keep it simple. Dio is shown multiple times to just dodge light in general. Dio is also able to keep up with Star Platinum in some instances, able to just flat out outspeed him. Star Platinum is both stated to be the fastest character in part 3 and flat out faster than light. Star Platinum is faster than Silver Chariot, and the Silver Chariot was able to outspeed Hanged Man, who is stated to be just light. The very calc, which I will leave in the description below, totals to around 300 to 1000 times the speed of light. But if you watch my other videos where I talk about Jojo power scaling in regards to Star Platinum, there's a consistency of these characters being infinite speed. For strength, Jotaro is able to collapse a part of a building with a single punch while fighting Kakyoin. He's also able to destroy massive teeth that are more dense than diamonds. There's a calc for his fight versus Dark Blue Moon, where he's able to generate enough force with a whirlpool to be calced at large building. Dio should logically be able to kill Pucci in part 6 since he's comparable to Jotaro in part 3 in terms of strength, which is stated to be in his prime. Pucci was able to withstand the universe being destroyed along with the recreation of it along with the Big Bang. So logically, his durability should be universal, and if that's the case, then Dio should have universal attack potency, since he's able to harm a Jotaro who was stated to be able to kill Pucci in part 6, which by the way should be a weaker state of Jotaro. So we could make this deduction that Dio has universal strength and therefore should be able to flat out just blow up Sukuna with one punch. That is if you follow this line of scaling. As long as Sukuna's head is gone from his body, he won't be able to use RCT to reattach it, and he will just die. Along with the fact that Sukuna just doesn't have any resistance to Dio's fear hacks, which is shown to cripple people and make them even sweat. The win con would be that Dio simply hits Sukuna one time in the head, even without his time stop, simply because he's too fast and too strong. So in conclusion, Dio's too fast, too strong, he would just flat out win. And that's pretty much it.